Hey there, Latin 2. Welcome back. The first thing I'm going to tell you is that each chapter will have multiple videos to it. There will be one for a little while of me reading out loud so that you can get back into that habit. And then there will be one of me doing the grammar lessons and assigning assignments. And then there will be one of me doing a translation. So at least three, probably closer to 4 or 5 sometimes, because I'm also going to go over some of the vocabulary as well. And eventually some of those will kind of touch right away as you get better at it on your own. Now, having said that, I strongly recommend that you go back and take a look at all the videos from Latin 1 that are essentially from when we had to part ways in March on forward. Which I believe is, I think, chapter 18, somewhere around there. So go back and look at those, especially the grammar ones, especially just the translation ones as well, just so you get a feel for it, because that's the review that we need to do. And if we're not together, if you're seeing this because we don't get to have class together, then that's going to be a review that you're going to have to do on your own. And luckily, you can just go back into that playlist and grab them. So. Today, I'm going to go over the vocabulary for you from chapter 28, and time permitting, I will read chapter 28 aloud to you as well. So let's take a look first at the glossary on the bottom of page 3, just like we did at the beginning of the year last year. So the first word that we see there is crines, crinium. So that tells us that's an I stem. That also tells us that this is a plural. Okay, so in Latin, the word for hair is actually translated as the word hairs. So I want you to get a pencil out and translate that as hairs, not hair. We in English speak of hair as a collective, but other languages they do talk about hair as a plural. So the singular for crines would be crinis. So it's crinis, crinis, masculine. I always think of hair growing out of my cranium, and that seems to help me. I don't know any other words in English that deal with hair, though. Perhaps you know some in another language. The next word, speculum, speculi, and it means mirror. And Romans, they would, polish up glass or polish up metal, and it is distorted mirrors, but mirrors nonetheless. But notice it's a neuter noun, so the plural would be specula. It comes from the verb specto, spectare, okay, which then turns into speculo, speculare, which is to stare at. But speculum also is a medical instrument for looking inside of bodily cavities. You can use them in all kinds of dentistry, gynecology, proctology, pretty much anything where you've got an opening that they need to see inside of. So speculum, speculi. And I strongly suggest you say these aloud. The next word is negligente. Okay, negligently obviously comes from that. In Latin means carelessly. I don't really like using cognates for translations. It seems a little too easy. I like to expand our vocabulary. The next one is vexatus aum, and this does come from the verb vexo, vexare. This means she who has been annoyed or he who has been annoyed. It's the adjectival form. Technically, it's a participle. We'll get into that later, but it's the fourth principal part of that verb. So vexatus aum, annoyed or bothered. Okay. The next one is in Cuibus. Now, in Cuibus translates as among whom. So it's an ablative, and it's telling us, among those ones who. Okay. The next word, porcus, porci, which is just fun. It's masculine. It means pig. And yes, porca would be the sow. Okay. Porcus is where we get the word pork. Also the word porcine, if you're describing the guards in Jabba's palace in episode 6 of Star Wars. They're porcine creatures. It means they're pig-like. So yes, and porky pig. It just means piggy pig. The next word, Kuyus. Kuyus means whose. I want you to switch that to of whom. And the reason for that is that you'll understand better that it's a genitive. Kuyus is the genitive singular of qui, quae, quod. Okay, and there's a song for that, and we've talked about that last. I recommend you go back to that chapter, that video from Latin 1, actually. The next one is one that Latin students love. It's glis, gliris. You will notice that it's an I stem, and it means dormouse. After this video, you might want to look up what a dormouse looks like. They're adorable, and they're edible. In fact, they're still raised for food in Romania. So if you ever go to Romania, ask for the dormice. The last one in the glossary that's in the standard glossary is sela selai, which means sedan chair. And what it is it's a chair that slaves would carry you around in. Okay, so they just kind of shrug and pick it up and carry you through town. So it's a sedan chair. And that's where we get the idea of a car as a sedan, essentially. I don't know any words in English from that, but if you come up with any, feel free to put them in, a group chat. Then at the bottom, you'll see that they always put verbs that don't quite fit up to the norm for like firsts and fourths, the o, are, awi, atum verbs. So when there's stem changes, they stack them at the bottom of the glossary, as you can see right there, okay? Now, they still give you the line number that it shows up on. So now when you run into a verb that is in here that you're like, I don't know where that is, you look at the line that it's on, and you're going to need to look here and here, okay? And that's where it'll show up the first time. So the first verb is pecto, pectora, pexi, pexum. And what I always think about is when you're making jam and you need to comb out the strawberry seeds and you comb out the pecticin, that always just helped me. I don't know why. It's a well-preserved joke. I know some of you are jelly, but this is my jam. So, all right, and then the last one is on line 11, wendo, wendora, wendidi, wenditum. Okay, and I always give you the neuters. So this means to sell, is where we get the word vendor from. And I bet you there's other words, but none of them are coming to mind. And then next to the questions, you will actually see one last thing, including a preposition. So quam ob causam, ob governs the accusative because it's not sid space. Okay? Ob governs the accusative, and it's one of those prepositions that kind of fits everything. So in this case, it means for. Sometimes it means in front of, on behalf of. It's kind of a catch-all preposition. But quam ob causam, for what reason? And then, of course, it's just another way of saying why. Then if you turn the page to page 6, you will see at the bottom of the exercises one last word, pulcher, pulcra, pulcrum. This is a first and second declension adjective, and it means beautiful. It's where we get the Latin word pulchritude, or the English word pulchritude from, which doesn't sound beautiful, but it means beautiful. Okay? So those are all the words that you need to know. That's all of the vocab. In the next video, I'm going to give you the grammar. All right, I'm going to hit the button.